One of the most important things to keep in mind when you're working on your own music is that you have to separate yourself and your ego from the music. I'm going to tell you what I used to do. I thought I was a great singer for a long time. Turns out I'm a good singer. I'm an okay singer, somewhere between okay and good, but I'm not great. And what that means is that when I work on my own songs, I would need to add some tuning to it, and I wouldn't. And at the sake of the song, I would be thinking of, I don't want to add auto-tune because I'm a good singer. I'm a great singer. I don't need it. I did need it. But by not looking at the song objectively and by having my own personal bias against auto-tune and Melodyne, I wouldn't tune the song the way it needed to be done. I wouldn't tune my vocal the way it needed to be done. So because of that, I ran into a lot of times where I'd be kind of like thinking people would like stuff, and then it probably hurt their ears a little bit. And that's the thing. Pitch can bug certain people much more than it bugs other people. Sometimes this will actually get in your way. Like if you're too attuned to the pitch, you could actually tell people that doesn't work or this doesn't work, and it might work. It just might be, drifting in and out in some way that's okay. So like being too attuned to the pitch is kind of taking all the mistakes out, and I don't recommend that. All right, nobody had their vocal tuned in the 90s, in the 70s, in the 60s. Nobody, in the 80s, nobody's tuning vocals. But because of that, stuff sounded great too. And there's mistakes left in when you had tape because you just couldn't edit all the mistakes out. And we love that stuff. So leave the mistakes in is a huge philosophy I want everybody to wrap their head around. When things are perfect, if you took that to the top utmost, power, that's a sine wave. You could torture people with a sine wave. It's literally torture. And if you think about it, by making everything perfect, you're actually making everything dull and bleh. The human brain gets excited when things change and move. This is actually a Mark Rubel thing. He used to say that to get somebody's attention, what do? You wave your hand. You could jump up and down. People notice you if you stand there. If you're doing anything with movement, you get noticed. If it's just not moving, which was what would happen if you took a note and hard tuned it. There's no movement. It's now a perfect note. I don't like that either. It's not going to grab anyone's attention. So there's a thing to this where if you want the brain to be active and involved, leave the mistakes in. Leave that movement of things happening that are real, right? But separate yourself from your ego, because I should have tuned my vocals way more than I did. And now when I listen to my own stuff, my ears pick up that, I don't like this. But here's another thing. They don't pick it up after I've been mixing for a long time. You'll get used to anything. Reminds me of Shawshank Redemption. Andy Dufresne crawling through that tunnel. Smelled like, you know what it smelled like when he's escaping the prison. But why? Was it okay? Because after a certain amount of time, like it's okay because he had to do it, he had no choice. But it's okay also because your brain shuts down. I think they mentioned that in the movie. Your senses, they shut down. When things like that are overwhelming, your senses protect you and they shut down. So it's the same thing when you're listening to your own music and you're mixing it. Things that are out of pitch, it could be anybody's music to be fair. Things that are out of pitch and are bugging your ears are going to actually start to accept it over a certain amount of time. That's why the worst thing you could do is mix without breaks for a long time. As soon as you're doing that, your brain starts to accept these things that are really harsh. That's also why when I'll mix a song, I'll generally finish it, and then the next day I'll check it before, like I told you, you know my method. You've seen better mixes less time. You know my method. Bottom line is that fresh head listen is so critical. Sometimes that couple hour break will give you the same thing, but the next day break, like if you can possibly go to the next day and then listen back, is that revealing, so revealing. Because as soon as you pop it in, it's like, wow, all right, that hit me, I need to deal with that because it's hurting my ears. Whereas how could it have not hurt your ears the day before? Because your senses shut down. That's how. They just started to accept it. And this is something I want you guys to know, and keep this is huge. Post Malone, whether you like him or not, the dude must be a humble guy. Every interview I've seen, all his stuff, the guy seems humble as the day is long, and the dude seems like a great dude. And now I know why that he got where he got. He got where he got because he didn't put up roadblocks that would get in the way of his success, like ego. Because if you had my mentality of, I don't want to tune my vocal, I like the way it sounds, you would never get there, because it might have needed that. You know, like I said, I'm an okay singer, but I ain't going to do well on the freaking American Idol. I ain't going to do well if I'm standing up doing a cappella, you know, got to sing by all just singing and no instrumentation. I ain't going to do that well because my voice isn't great. The way a guitarist, you know, I play guitar, so that's how I always relate things. I can fly around the neck and make things sound really cool, seamless, kind of just this, it'll have a vibe. It goes for the bends are nice, the flutters are nice, the riffs are nice. That's how it should be. Whereas a person who's kind of okay at the guitar, you're going to hear the disjointed, you know, between the notes. You're going to hear a concerted effort to do things that will sometimes fall short. You're going to hear sometimes a little flat, sometimes a little sharp on bends. You're going to notice this on people that aren't that good. Whereas once you get to a certain level, you're doing riffs and stuff that just, they're seamless and they sound great because everything is working together, just like a vocalist. When a great vocalist is performing, they're fluttering in between the notes and they're moving around with such character and such grace that it just sort of makes you feel amazing. Picture Adele's voice. Picture any amazing voices out there that they can achieve this, right? And that's the difference between a great singer and a good singer. And somebody who's a great singer, you don't need to do the same things with. But if you're a good singer and you don't want to be roughed up in the ears with pitch, you may have to mess with it. The only, you know, and so if you separate ego and you're just serving the song, you will mess with it. You'll make it where now it sounds great, and that might not be perfect. I want you to understand, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be where it's too far out, it needs to not be too far out. And then the rest of the times it can be okay. That perfect pitch thing is not necessary. It doesn't have to be a flat note like we said in the beginning. It just has to work. It has to serve the song. Everything in the song has to serve it, which is why if you're too involved and you're in your own part, in your own ego, you may be thinking about wanting people to like what you did or trying to shine the light and showcase what you did. When in actuality, you should be showcasing the song. It should serve the song. This is why the best session musicians know how to simplify. Leland Sklar, perfect example comes to mind. The dude would know the perfect part for the song all the time. He's never trying to overplay and be nuts. These kind of things are so critical if you're serving the song. If you're serving your part, then you want to be on Bass Player Magazine on the front of the cover, and you want to be flying around the world doing bass player masterclasses, and you want to be like, that's a totally different thing. These things don't exist simultaneously. Only if it serves the song will it be something that should be there. And if you're thinking about your ego, like I was about, like not, and also my preference and my ego. I don't really love auto-tune. I don't like Melodyne. I'd rather it be my voice. It's okay if it's a little out because I like 90s music and I like, you know, the stuff that has a little pitch issues. I like Counting Crows, whatever it is. I used to, all these excuses in my head for why I wouldn't want to do something the song needed. The song needed in order to get it to where it could be accepted. And universally, in a way that I would like 10 years later. Let's put it that way. Not in a way that serves my ego at the moment. There's a very big difference, because I'm not saying you should make music that everybody should like. I think you should make it so you should like it. That's my personal opinion. But you should like it if you're separated from your ego. Do you like it? Because it's funny how your ego can literally put up roadblocks that could prevent you from being where you're going. Because I'll tell you right now, if Post Malone had those roadblocks, he wouldn't be where he is. He allowed his vocal to be manipulated. He allowed these things to happen and didn't get in the way. And as a result, dude's on top. Whether you like him or not, it's not relevant. The point is, that's a dude who was able to let things happen the way they needed to. He let go. And if you're doing your own song, you need to be able to let go of that connection in order to really discover what serves the song. As a mixer, as a producer, it's all relevant. You're the guy deciding what gets kept, what gets not kept. You're the guy who decides when other guys in the band have done it right or not. You got to be serving the song the whole time. And if that means this part that somebody else played should be there instead of what you're doing, then that's what should happen. You need to be able to make it work and get out of each other's way. A great band gets out of each other's way. When one guy's part is coming up that would showcase how great the song is and put an emphasis on something, everybody got to get out of the way, man. Get out the way. If you're in the way because your part is important to you and you need that there and you're the guy mixing, you're ruining everything. You have to be able to separate yourself to know what is good at what time and what is better than what was there. You need to be able to do that. In the arrangement, when you're creating that, it exists, but also you could save the whole thing in the mix. If everybody's playing over each other, you could literally save it in the mix by figuring out what's important and then showcasing that and muting the other stuff right before the drops, right before the fills. You could save it if you have to, and I've done this a ton of times. And the bands that love that kind of work, they then learn to play the song that way. That's just how it happens, because trust me when I tell you, every band's not on that level. You need somebody in the band to step forward and be like, hey, what's going on? You guys, you need to lay out, you're stepping on the vocal. You got to play less because you're stepping on the bass part. Like, you need to, everybody's got to serve the song, you know? What your part there should be, you should simplify that, because then it would lock in with the hi-hat. Play half as many notes. You're doing 16ths, do 8ths. Like, people need to understand how to make this thing work. And it's up to you if you're taking the role of all those jobs. It's literally up to you. And this applies in all genres. You don't know how many times a singer will, like, this happened recently, a singer's singing a part over a beat, right? And the beat track has this very messy sort of hi-hat part in a spot, and the singer, you know, is just singing to the beat track. So they're singing a part that's really great. So I get the stems and I'm listening back, and I understand why the singer, like, is singing over it, because that's what's there. But I'm listening going, this hi-hat part's totally getting in the way of what he's doing. Like, so I changed the hi-hat part, because you can do that. And I may show you that in another video. But the bottom line is I grabbed all the hats, I put them where they needed to be, I took out the part that was stepping on what he was doing, and I created like my own dilettante kind of thing to make it work the way it needed to work. Because I understood what the producer was trying to do, but he was doing that when there was no vocal on it. Now there's a vocal on it, and this is getting in the way with that, and somebody needs to step in and save this thing. And that's the bottom line, is you got to be that guy. And if it's your own, if you were the guy who produced the beat and you're the guy who sang it, are you going to know that? You might, if you're looking at it objectively and if you don't have your ego involved, all right? You might. And if that's a battle you need to fight because they're both on the project, like let's say one guy makes the beat and one guy's singing, you're the singer, the guy making the beat is helping you mix it or listening to your mix it, and he's like, oh, what'd you do to my part? It's like, look, you'll play on both mixes. Be like, listen to it with it, listen to it without it. You're telling me what you're doing doesn't get in the way, and then you'll know real quick if that guy's on your side. Because if you listen back and it's like just obvious that it's getting in the way, creating flams or ridiculous, something distracting while this other part is happening, and one thing is serving the song and the other thing's like, what is that? And the guy wants his part in because it's his part, and the drummer says, you know, what I'm doing is ridiculous, what you're doing is ridiculous. I've had that fight with drummers before. I told a guy once who was in my band, one of my drummers, I was like, oh, you know, what is with all those crashes? You're just crashing all over everything. Like, can't we do less of that? And, you know, it's a little ridiculous. And he's like, my part's ridiculous. Your part's ridiculous. You'll run into that sort of argument. It'll happen, okay? But you'll know real quick where the person stands when that happens. Because is it about serving the song or not? Because if it is, they may have an argument for why it serves the song. But then it's up to you to decide if there's validity in that or not. There has to be one person running the ship. You can't have two captains. So once you figure that out, you know, be honest with yourself. If it's his part, you leave his part. If it's your part, you leave your part, or you change your part. You know what I'm saying? If you make it work, but you're never stuck with what's there. And that's why, you know, like literally, if the hi-hat ever happens by itself, that's a sample by itself that somebody programmed. You grab one, you cut out what was there, you move it around. Why not? You might as well. You could figure out what the grid is. I usually move it around by hand because it feels more natural. But the bottom line is you figure out where the grid is, figure out where it needs to be, then you adjust a little forward, a little back, or whatever. You create that feel that sort of has a swing to it. But you could do it with every single thing. When you get a beat track, I never look at it like this has to be what is on the final recording, ever. It could be most of it, but if there's anything that gets in the way, I make it not get in the way. That's the beautiful thing about audio today, is we can manipulate things way more than we ever could if we had tape. So like, there's a huge, huge benefit for people, especially the way people work today, where they buy a beat track and they do whatever on it. You could do so much, because this happens in every genre. You'll have it on country songs, you'll have it on rock, you'll have it on hip hop, rap, EDM. Doesn't matter what people are doing. You can manipulate it a lot. It doesn't have to be done in like a remix thing. You could change what's going on if it serves the song. That's how I look at it. All right. So I don't want to go too long on this, but this is a fiery subject, and I think people, if they separate themselves, they'll get way better work. Because as soon as I started doing that, now all of a sudden I'm tuning my vocal way more. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, all right, you know what? It needed it. So I don't care that I don't like auto-tune. My voice needs it. And when I have a guy in my studio, like I've had plenty of people who can sing and they're fire, I don't add auto-tune. You know, one of my buddies I was in a band with has pitch like an angel. I don't know how to describe it any other way. He's got a low voice. Dude has a masculine, like good sounding, deep voice, but his pitch is like, mwah. His pitch is beautiful. And the dude never needs auto-tune because his pitch is so good, right? But if I'm singing with him, sometimes I need to auto-tune my voice. Let's be honest here, all right? Like I told you, it's a good voice. It's an okay voice. It's a character voice. If I'm the only one singing and the part is a rhythmic part, it's cool. It's cool. It's a Chili Peppers kind of thing. You do what you got to do. That's when it works. But when I'm holding notes, when I'm doing whatever, sometimes it needs to be tuned. And I know that, and now I tune it. And everything, the song, is better for it. All right? Serve the song. And then in doing that, you will be helping yourself, whether you realize it or not. All right? You guys could all do this. You could all produce, mix, and master. You could do your own songs. You could be every guy. The guy who records it, engineers it, produces it, and mixes it. You could be that guy, because I want you to know, before Bob Clearmountain, that's what everybody did. Everybody who recorded this stuff, like whoever the producer was the guy who mixed it. Whoever, like it was this, they didn't send it out prior to Bob Clearmountain showing up and being like the guy who's first sort of freelance mixer kind of guy. So you don't need other people. I'm not saying you do. You could do it yourself, if you could separate yourself from the song so that you can serve the song. All right? Do me a favor. If you like the video, serve the song into the comment section and let me hear funny stories that you have about people who are doing whatever with their parts. And also anything you do to separate yourself. Let me know if you got methods, got any cool philosophies. I'd love to hear it. Hit the like button if you dug the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. My name's Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this. Take it easy.